Hello again, and welcome to today's Volunteer in Education Governance webinar. My name is Joyce, and I'm one of the Partnerships Manager here at Boards for Education. And for those who join a bit later, we were governors for schools before, but we have recently updated our name, which is very exciting. We will take you through our presentation today and have time at the very end for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to add them to the Q&A box on Zoom, and we will come to them at the end. And this session is also being recorded, and this recording and the PDF of this PowerPoint will also be shared with you via the university in the next couple of working days. So, who are we exactly? Boards for Education is a charity dedicated to supporting education through effective governance. And we do this by sourcing field volunteers to serve on governing boards across England and Wales. And for 26 years, we've played a vital role in helping schools and trusts build exceptional boards, helping pupils benefit from the very best possible education. And we know that having talented and committed volunteers active in board roles can transform a school. And we work with schools and colleges to understand what they need, with them registering their board vacancies with us. We now have over 4,000 vacancies registered with us, and there's a constant need for new people to get involved. And on the screen here, you will see the various services that we offer to education settings. We're proud to support the recruitment, not only governors, but also trustee and members, and further education governors. When schools and colleges register their vacancies with us, let us know if there are any specific skills or experience that they're after. We'll then work with our volunteers. Hopefully, it will be you guys to find the best match and make introductions. And we aim not to find volunteers with the right skills, but to also ensure that boards are representative of the wider community. So from a survey in 2025 from the National Governance Association, it was noted that only 9% of governance volunteers are under the age of 40, with a mere 1% under the age of 30, and a stark 95% identify as white. And we hope that every single person in this room knows that they can volunteer to school governance, and we consider ourselves successful in engaging a broad range of people. And during your time with us as a volunteer, we will provide ongoing support so you can develop your skills in the role and have the knowledge to succeed from the very start. And we hope that this webinar today supports you on that journey as well. Now I'll hand over the time to Claudia to talk about why Oxford Brookes would like to partner with us.
Thanks, Joyce. So just a brief intro from me. My name's Claudia and I'm an Outreach Project Manager at Oxford Brookes. When I first took up my governor role for a secondary school in Abingdon, the school was looking for a couple of new governors and they were discussing some of the skills gaps that they needed. And this included such a wide range of skills, from needing another parent governor, people with education expertise, but also comms, marketing, finance, estates. And so I was quite struck by the fact that all of these roles exist in some form within either the Oxford Brookes staff or alumni community, and that the university itself would be a good place to explore recruiting more governors. So that's how the partnership started. In terms of professional development, I think I started in role with a set idea of some of the skills that are more obvious that you can develop in a professional role. For example, for myself, doing more of an operational role, it gives an opportunity to look at things more strategically. But actually, in a very sort of specific example, one of the skills and pieces of work that I've looked at in my governor role that I didn't know about in advance or expect to learn from is as the portfolio role that I have for disadvantaged and vulnerable young people, we've looked quite closely at the pupil premium statement with the school, and I found it really interesting to see the synergies between a pupil premium statement and a university's access and participation plan, and the different ways that education institutions use public funds to support vulnerable and disadvantaged young people. I think in terms of social responsibilities, school governors and any kind of governing role really fits in nicely with a university's civic mission. And that is within local schools, but also because we have such a broad range of alumni and staff living outside of Oxfordshire, there's that real local and national reach. And I think the one other thing that we wanted to flag for those that are staff is that Brookes does have a really generous volunteering policy. So you can have up to 1 day of paid volunteering leave in agreement with your manager. So I have used mine to, I've actually split it over multiple days, and it's enabled me to go into the school during the work week for governor walks and governor visits so that I can see some of the school in action and focus on some of the themes for the different walks. So that's been a really good use of the Brookes volunteering policy. I'll hand back over to you now, Joyce.
Thank you. And thank you for also touching on the benefits of being a governance volunteer, which we will go into more details in a bit. But before that, I think it is important to establish the idea of, what are you actually doing? What is a school governance volunteer? So there are a few different roles available, but to put it simply, a school governance volunteer is someone who is passionate about improving opportunities for all pupils. And to do this, they volunteer their time, skills, and experience to impact the effectiveness of education in the institutions that they support. School governance volunteering roles are strategic rather than operational, and they do not need to get involved with the day-to-day running of the school. Instead, they would work at board level to support and challenge the leadership team to drive school improvement. And I think it is also important to know, and it is indeed a big misconception in the world of school governance, is that you actually do not need to be a parent or a carer to volunteer, and you do not need to have any previous experience within the world of education even. Everyone aged 18 or above is encouraged to get involved. School governance volunteers enable their school to run effectively and provide excellent education for children. Basically, there are three core responsibilities. The first one is planning the strategic direction, so there is a clear vision in line with the school's ethos. The second one is to oversee the financial management to ensure public money is well spent and appropriately accounted for. And the last one is to hold senior leaders to account for the educational performance and outcomes. And we'll look into each aspect in greater detail. First, vision and strategy. As part of the governing body, you play a key role in setting the vision for your school or colleges to help the leadership to think about how that builds into different areas. So some questions we can ask regarding this area is, so for example, is the vision ambitious enough for every pupil? What should be in place to make different things happen? If there is a clear vision, it can be the blueprint for every pupil's success. Think about how pupils, staff, families, or other external stakeholders are engaged and consulted, making sure the vision and strategy is clear and embedded. You're likely to be involved in areas also like policy development or agreeing to a school development plan. And all of these areas require a range of skills, and your expertise makes a real difference. So, for example, an educationalist can help ask questions and build a strong approach around areas like curriculum or pedagogy. Someone with financial expertise can help the school to budget more effectively and more sustainably for the future as well. Someone with marketing expertise helps to consider how the setting can best present itself and how its culture and ethos are highlighted both internally and externally. Or if you're really local to the community, to the school community, you can also contribute a deeper consideration of local issues. Governing boards will have financial oversight of their school, college, or trust, and they must ensure that it is balanced, robust, and in line with the strategic vision. The level of responsibility does differ between boards, and we'll provide more detail about that shortly. But something common to consider is the breadth of competing needs for the budgets. Building a financially sustainable future is vital to supporting educational achievement. And you do not need to be an expert in finance. That is the point of having a mix of skills across the board. But you definitely learn some as you go and contribute some skills and gain others. And part of the role of a governing board is to hold the head teacher, the senior leadership, to account for the setting of educational performance. As a member of the board, you will need to monitor and evaluate. And to be effective in that, you need to be able to ask questions and be aware of all the information that is available to you. Being able to support and challenge leadership is one of the most key aspects of being on the board. A good example of how we would do this is examining the progress and attainment data. You examine how different groups of pupils are progressing, what is in place to support pupils with special needs, for example, or those with English as an additional language. And by discussing all these queries, data with the board, you can really understand what the data means and the impact that it is having on your setting. Another way of looking at the responsibility of accountability is to break it down into watchdog, mediator, and champion. As a watchdog, you're there to make sure the right questions are asked, seek evidence to back up statements being made, never just accept what is being reported or planned on face value, but to really make sure that there is robust reasoning behind everything. And as a mediator, you'll be getting the needs of people, staff, and external stakeholders, as well as the more practical things like balancing the budget. You'll be set on a board with people from a variety of backgrounds, and you need to bring people together and their opinions together to ensure the board is effective. And lastly, and this can be so easily undervalued or overlooked, is that you need to be a champion. You need to be able to celebrate the successes and make sure that progress is recognized. And as a volunteer, being passionate about your school, college, or trust is what makes the role so satisfying. And now I will hand the time to Helen, who is Director of UK and Global Recruitment at OBU, about her experience in school governance. It is always good to have someone sharing the real life experience and put things into more context. So Helen, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear and see me all okay. So yeah, as it says on the screen, I have been working at Brookes for just over 10 years. I'm now Director of UK and Global Recruitment. And I've been a primary school governor for about 3 years. I think I've got 1 year left of my term to go. So I've spoken at these webinars for a couple of years, and it was quite interesting for me to make some notes and think about the kind of experience and how it's evolved over time. My initial motivation for becoming a governor is that I became a parent governor at my children's school. So I am a parent governor at an Oxfordshire primary school, and it's a local authority school. It's not an academy, so we have a governing body, and ultimately the school is part of the local authority funded. There's no kind of academy, multi-academy trust over the top of us. And knowing what I know about my time and my skills and my levels of enthusiasm, I thought that being a governor was a good fit and a good way for me to give back and contribute to my children's school, because I'm not a summer fete organizer, although I am happy to volunteer, but those parents are amazing. But I knew that that was probably not something that I was going to have the kind of capacity to support. So this was where my skills probably lay. And it's interesting what Claudia said about going in with a kind of preconceived idea of what it might involve and what you might learn, because I definitely felt that sense of volunteering at my children's school and kind of giving back in that sense. But hopefully you'll hear that actually I've gained a huge amount, a lot of it unexpected, from being a governor. I obviously work in education, as we all do here, and my role crosses over quite directly with some of the areas that Claudia talked about. So, how we make sure that a more diverse range of students are going on to university. And I quickly realised that there were some really clear crossovers between what I was learning about and what I was doing as a school governor with a wider role in education, not least that work around how we ensure that all children are set up to succeed and all children have equal opportunities. And that's something that's driven me and motivated me in my career. And so I definitely found that that became something that I was championing as a governor. Um, I've done a really wide range of things while I've been a governor. So there is absolutely a bread and butter element to this, reading the papers, turning up to meetings. And one of the main questions I had was, when I was thinking about it, was about the time commitment. So I will touch a bit on those just basic practicalities. But I've also taken part in pupil voice sessions, so going into schools and being with a teacher while they talk to students about their experiences. And perhaps most interestingly, I've done that around PSHE and a new curriculum that was in place that is tackling some quite significant issues, particularly at the top end of primary school, that around social media, very pertinent this week in the news, and some of those things and challenges that children encounter. And so it gave me a really good understanding of the types of issues that come up in the school and how the school curriculum can support students to manage those. And I also did that for art, and I don't know anything about art, but actually, what you find, and as Joyce mentioned, there are ways in which you can bring your expertise, and there are ways in which you don't need expertise, but you just need to be prepared to ask questions and probe the evidence and slightly that kind of critical support for the staff as well. I've done some more kind of formal things. So I am on the staff pay committee and I'm on the finance and premises committee. I've learnt more about health and safety than I might want to know, but it's stuff that I've picked up. I've also been on a governor panel for a staff grievance. So that's been a really interesting process in terms of checking that a process has been followed correctly and making sure that a fair outcome has been achieved and having some experience of that. I'm the attendance governor, so we're quite a small governing body of a not very big school, and so most of us have a portfolio. So I'm the attendance governor, which is a really big issue across the sector post-COVID. And so through that, I've had access to kind of reports about the school and done some really interesting work with the head teacher directly, looking at why some children don't come to school as much as we would like them to, and what the barriers to that might be. And there's been really significant overlap with that and some of our SEND provision and some of our work around equality of opportunity. Um, there's been some kind of lighter bits as well. So we get involved in meeting new parents or prospective parents when they're coming to look around the school. Joyce mentioned around kind of marketing. So given kind of my role, I've got a bit involved in how we recruit to our schools. So we're based in an area where parents have a bit of a choice and none of the primary schools are full because of the demographic changes. So actually making sure we are attracting as many children as possible to choose our school is really important to us in terms of our financial sustainability. I've had opportunity to do lots of training. Lots of that is specific to being a governor, so there is really good support available, not only through boards for education, as they're now known, but also when you become a governor. So at my school, that's through Oxfordshire County Council, and we also subscribe to another organisation that delivers free training. But quite a bit of that I've been able to do free has wider relevance. So I've done safeguarding training, I've done some training related to finance that I can then apply in work as well. And I've now also been through an Ofsted inspection under the new kind of Ofsted regime. There were some changes to that, which was probably the moment where I was sat in a room with the lead inspector being asked lots of questions, thinking, gosh, this isn't even my job, but it feels a little bit intense. But actually seeing the school get a positive outcome from that and seeing the teachers get recognition for all the hard work that's been put in and the governors was really satisfying. And I think I'd really pick up on what Joyce said about the champion role. The other roles are really important as a governor, and sometimes there are difficult conversations, and sometimes you ask and the staff may not have a great answer, and you can work with them to kind of do that. But what I have learned is that being a primary school leader is a really challenging job, and it's really wide ranging. And there's not a huge amount of support. And so being able to be a set of governors where we do champion the successes of the school and we encourage and support the leadership and the teachers within the school to continue doing what they're doing and to have confidence in their ideas, I think I find a really rewarding part of the role. Um, and I think in terms of reward, for me, the other part is that, key principle around governance is that we should be ensuring that all of the decisions, the way the school is led, the use of our money is all in the best interests of the children who attend the school. So as a parent governor, I obviously have a personal investment in that this is my children's school and I want it to be the best that I can. But in terms of wider things that motivate me and values that I hold, that for me is really rewarding when you see I feel sometimes in our work, the link between decisions we make and work we do and the sort of impact can be a bit long or a bit disjointed, but I feel that being a governor, you can really see that within the school year. So final thing for me is just that practicality bit I mentioned. So the time commitment for me, I find pretty manageable, and I've definitely got into it. So I'm on the finance committee, and it's much quicker for me to like digest the papers and things like that. I've got used to reading a school account, which looks different to a work account. So I think that you do get into the swing of things. It depends on the committees that you're on, but for me, I tend to have 2 evening meetings per half term. At my school, they tend to be in person, but sometimes particularly if we have just sort of short meetings about something, they'll be online. They're mainly in the evenings, but we do need to go into school. And as Claudia mentioned, I've been able to use the volunteer leave that we have to kind of flex that around other commitments. And I haven't ever taken a kind of whole day. I've been able to use that with my manager kind of piecemeal for that. And I would say for kind of those committee meetings, I probably now spend about an hour to an hour and a half, maybe reviewing the papers and looking through them, writing myself some notes. So when I turn up at Governors after a busy day at work, I remember the questions and comments that I have. But yeah, definitely I've found that gets a bit quicker, my ability to absorb the information. I know what the head teacher's report looks like. I know the bits that I had questions about before that I might want to hone in on. And it's been really nice to meet a kind of whole range of a whole range of people from my local area who are governors. And I think one thing just to pick up on as a final point to encourage you to put yourself forward, certainly at the school I'm a governor, there are a number of governors who've given fantastic service to the school, and there's one governor whose children and then grandchildren have been through all the way through the primary school and now left, which is amazing in terms of the longevity, their experience, the things they've been. But sometimes I do look around the table and think, well, where will the next governors come from? So, because I think particularly on smaller schools, they're often supported by people who do multiple terms. So I think that is fantastic work that governors for schools, boards of education do, because I think it is something that that kind of turnover when you do have a vacancy can be quite challenging, and it's really important for that school that they get some continuity. So it's a really, really rewarding way to kind of give a bit back, as well as hopefully between Claudia and myself, we've talked a bit about the experience and the benefits that we get. So I'll hand back to you, Joyce.
Thank you, Helen. And I love that your governance life is so rich and so varied, because I think a lot of times when you think about board meetings, people normally have this idea that, oh, it's going to be so dull and so boring. It's going to be a lot of like paper reading. And I'm going to lie, like there's some element of that to be a school governor or in this governance volunteering sector. But if you have a specific passion, an area of interest, you can definitely voice that to the board, and you can take a lead on that. There are different people that you will meet, different aspects of the school that you can get involved in. So it is very varied, can be quite interesting as well. It really depends on how how you want to be a school governor, how you manifest that in your role. So thank you so much, Helen, for being so animated when you talk about your experience. So as I mentioned, there are three core responsibilities, which are vision, finance, and also performance. And all these three core responsibilities are valid for all school governance volunteer roles. However, it is worth noting that depending on the type of school that you join, your responsibilities will vary, and there are some differences between the roles. So for school governors, it is common for financial oversight to vary. So for all local authority schools, governors have a responsibility around school budget setting. If you are placed in a school that sits within a trust, financial strategy is usually set at a trustee level, sometimes with a more limited responsibility being delegated to governors in the school. And we just want to make that clear in case that is an area that really interests you. If it is, please make that clear in your application so we can match you with the right type of school. It's worth noting that every trust is different and can decide how they want to delegate those areas of responsibility. And as a chair of governors, you would provide leadership to the governing board, including facilitation of meetings, ensuring members work effectively to fulfill their roles and responsibilities, and presenting the board in interactions with external stakeholders. And as a further education governor, your role will have a stronger focus on industry links and more specific skill sets around themselves. And as a trustee, you are on a board that oversees all the academies within your trust, anything from one school to 40 plus schools. So instead of working with one head teacher, you're actually working with the CEO of the trust. And it's important to note that the trustee role is also a dual role. As well as being a trustee of the trust, individuals also operate as the director of the company, meaning that they're listed on Company House and subject to company law. But as I said, there are different roles available to you. The vast majority of our roles are for school governor positions. So it may be that you wish to start there and explore other options once you have built some experience within the education sector or education governance. If you have vast experience within the business sector, education sector, or have previous experience in governance, or as a chair of a board of a committee, it may be that you're best placed for a chair, trustee, or FE governor position. It is something that one of our team can discuss with you to make sure that we find you the right fit. So why do you want to consider being a school governance volunteer? Some of the common reasons that might be you. So if you care about the education children receive and want to help drive school improvement, you really enjoy a challenging but also very rewarding role that helps you grow professionally or even personally. Or it might be that you're looking for a way to share your current skill set and develop others. We recently surveyed our placed volunteers and found out that respondents reported growth across a big range of professional and transferable skills. And there's an increase in confidence, for example, and respondents also noted an increase in exposure to new hard-to-access skills, such as critical thinking, emotional intelligence, and strategic leadership. And you may be sitting here thinking to yourself, what do I offer to a school? Do I have the skills needed? Will I ever be a good school governor? And these are very valid and common questions that people ask themselves before applying to be a school governance volunteer. And yes, volunteers bring their expertise from their professional lives to a governing board. And some vacancies do require a more specific skill sets. But boards need people from a range of skills and backgrounds to run effectively. And above all, schools and colleges are looking for the qualities and lived experience that volunteers can bring. Everybody has meaningful skills. Sometimes you have better soft skills like communication, negotiation, knowledge of your local community. These are just as valuable as business skills or the hard skills that we normally emphasize. As such, we encourage you to apply regardless of where you are in your career now. Ultimately, a good governance volunteer is someone who is committed, passionate, willing to learn. Yeah. So Helen has briefly touched on the kind of time expectation, commitment level, and I'm going to dive into deeper here. So based on the feedback from our volunteers, the governance will take on average 4 to 6 hours per month. And this can vary depending on whether you take on additional roles, such as the chair or the committee chair. But most boards will meet once per half term or so. You also need to factor in the time to prepare for meetings, visit the school, and report back on your findings, as well as getting involved in any school celebration events. In terms of the time of office, it is usually 4 years, so it is best to think about the role as long term. And it can indeed take quite a while to get to know your school, college of trust, and start to see the impact that you are having. But obviously, it is only a voluntary role, so if your circumstances change, it is completely okay to resign before the end of your term. But if you really enjoyed it, thriving in your role, you can also put yourself forward for a second or even a third term or even more. In terms of travel, when you apply, you let us know how far will be practical for you to travel. What are the area that we can search for vacancies? Of course, the more quickly we're able to find you a vacancy. For example, if you want a primary school within 10 minutes from your house, you may be waiting longer if you're willing to travel 20 or 30 minutes. However, we would like to caveat that even though we have lots of vacancies, like what I said, we have over 4,000 vacancies, and it is indeed very important to try to fill them as quickly as possible. It also depends on the area that you live in when it comes to finding you a match. So if you live in a more remote location, maybe the expectation is instead of wanting a school just within like 20 minutes from your house, maybe it would take longer to travel. And lastly, around liability. So when you join a governing board, you are seen as a collective entity that supports the school. So any decisions or strategic oversight that you provide is seen as a collective. So there is shared liability. What it means is if the board was found to be not supporting the school in a sufficient manner or almost let the school down, it is likely that the entire board will be dismissed, and as it can be seen as a collective failure. Having misconceptions around personal liability, the only way a governor could be found personally liable is when they were found to have acted criminally, for example, negligently or fraudulently. So for anyone considering to be a trustee or a member, similar rules apply. But you do have increased responsibility as a company director, and would recommend you to read the government guidance if you want to know more. And our advice and guidance is always, as long as you act genuinely with honest intentions and motives in the interest of the school, there's nothing to really worry about around liability. And how will you benefit? Both Claudia and Helen have briefly mentioned you would definitely grow your transferable skills from a wealth of opportunities that being a volunteer can offer, benefiting you professionally and personally. You will have the opportunity to develop experience across a range of skills that you may not otherwise be exposed in your normal day-to-day role. Of course, the obvious, being board experience, making board decisions, as well as having the opportunity to network and collaborate with others within your community, which can broaden your worldview and personal and professional network. And everyone in this virtual room has a unique skill set to offer a school governing body, whether it is something in finance or HR, fundraising, education policy, mental health, health and safety, counseling. There's just so many other skills that our schools are crying out for from committed volunteers. And wherever your skills lie, there will be a school that needs what you can offer. You can give back to your community. And during your term, you will have an impact on the education of hundreds, if not thousands, of children. And those children can have a better experience of learning, higher aspirations, and improved life chances because of your involvement as part of the board. At Boards of Education, Boards for Education, so you need some time to get used to the new name. We do more than just placing you in the school. We want you to be effective in your governance role as quickly as possible. Therefore, we have a range of e-learning modules on a number of topics to introduce you to the key elements of the role, including Become an Effective New School Governor, which is a CBT certified induction course. We also hold regular webinars so you can continue your learning and have the opportunity to ask our governance experts questions. In England and Wales, all new governors are able to access free training opportunities through their local authority or their trust, which will be organized through the school. And whether you are a governor, a chair, a trustee, an FD governor, there is specific training that we offer to tailor the needs of the role. And here comes to the very last step, very last slide of the presentation. So what's next? Next is actually over to you. And the first step is to visit our website. You can complete your online profile with your skills and experience, school and travel preferences, and a personal statement that demonstrates your passion, your motivation to improving educational standards through governance, which we will share with the agreed setting during the process of finding you a suitable role. You may also wish to have a look at our volunteering opportunities board, where you will find a selected few of our vacancies, but please be assured that we have thousands of vacancies on our system. So what you see on this opportunities board is not everything we have. And once you've submitted your application, it is worth checking out our induction e-learning to help you prepare for the role. You can also visit our webinar library and other resources. And as suitable opportunities arise, you keep contact with the partnerships team. We'll share them with you to discuss suitability. Please also note that it can take a few months for a vacancy to be identified. We are a small team, a small organization, but we try to make big impact. Each school has a slightly different recruitment process. So once you and the school are happy to move forward, we will then make introductions between you guys to discuss next steps. And this can involve an initial chat about the role and the school, meeting with the head teacher and chair, a visit to the school to look around, observing a meeting, or some schools or clubs will take it more seriously and formally, and they will say it's an interview. And for safeguarding measures, volunteers will need to go through checks, including a DBS and references checks. And we're always here to track your progress, give you updates, and offer support whenever we can and you need your appointment. So that brings us to the QR code. So please feel free to use a mobile phone to scan a QR code and have a look at our website and application form. But now is the time for Q&A. So if you have any questions or if you have any specific questions for Helen or Claudia, who are school governors, please feel free to drop them in the chat function or the Q&A box. Thank you. No question is a silly question. We always got to start somewhere. I've got this question. How do I know which role to apply for? So what we do here at Boards for Education is we do a preference and skill-based match, meaning that you need to fill in your application first. And based on your self-evaluation on the skills and experience, and like what I said in the presentation, schools would also let us know what kind of skills they are after. If it is a match, then we will then let you know first that this opportunity exists. You can consider it, and we'll also send you like the school information, the school website for you to take a look. If you think it is a good fit, then we'll go ahead with the introduction. If you think that it's not the right fit for you, that is completely fine. Tell your dedicated partnerships manager, then they would do another search for you. So I hope that answered your questions. And then what is the average term of this role? It is 4 years. So if you now have plans like, oh, I'm actually going to move on from this area in like a year's time, maybe it is not the right time for you to apply. But if you know that you are pretty settled in this area, then we really encourage you to apply. However, if you still feel like time can be a little bit of a concern, there is also another role called associate governor. The term of office is usually not as long as 4 years. Associate governor is more like a governor that is involved in a more specific project. So if time is a concern and you still want to contribute your skills and experience in school governance, but might not have the entirety of 4 years, so please indicate that in your application form. Then we'll try and see if there are associate roles in your area. And as an associate member, you'll be involved in this project. You'll still be able to contribute, but you will not have voting rights. So that is something to note. What about location? Can it be local school in my preferred location area, or is it just schools based in Oxford? We have schools in the whole of England and some in Wales as well. So when you fill in, you will let us know your address, your postcode, and let us know how far it would be for you to travel practically. So if you are based in Oxford and you're happy to travel at for 5 or 10 or 15 miles, then we'll use that as our base to do our search for you. We also have remote governance. Some schools still take remote governance, but that is less and less frequent now. So it would be great if you can attend a school in person. Thank you. Any more questions, queries, thoughts? If not, then I guess that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for Claudia and Helen for your sharing. I really look forward to seeing your application and supporting you to be a school governor. If you have any question, I will leave my email to Anne or the university. Then if you have any questions, just reach out to me and I'll try my best to support you. But yeah, thank you so much. Have a lovely day, everyone. Bye-bye.